So let's talk about buckets. I have got a lot of buckets that I change out throughout the course of, cleaning, throwing. Um, this I have here for a rinse bucket, so for wiping off my hands, wiping off the stations, cleaning off my wheel. This bucket is reclaim, so it keeps all of my throwing slop in there. I'll reclaim pots that didn't quite make the cut, they got a crack, they'll go in there. And anything that gets, caught in the splash pan here, and my trimmings as well. Anything that hits the ground, I toss. Reason being is you can get a piece of grit inside your reclaim, and then when you fire that reclaim, that piece of grit can expand, and you get a nasty crack on your pot over the course of time. It's called a pop out, right? So it'll absorb water, or the clay will shrink around that material and cause it to crack. So I don't want that. With the throwing bucket here, you can see how the water settles. So I skim water to conserve everything, right? I'll get as much clear liquid as I can in here, and then I'll reuse this for throwing, right? So I have one throwing bucket that is empty, and then the other one that collects the slip and slop, right? So from here, I would pour the slip into my reclaim bucket. But since I want to demonstrate how to empty that out, I won't do that quite yet. So I just want to take my sponge and soak up all the excess water real quick, just so I can begin to remove the clay. So in reclaiming, you can do it a number of ways, right? Some people will throw this clay into a pillowcase. I'm doing it on a bed sheet, and from here we'll flip it over the course of a couple days as it dries, right? So this is all dried clay that was slaked down, or it was throwing slop that went in. So if you're working at a home studio, you don't have access to a pug mill like you do at a college or university. This is a great way to reclaim your own clay, right? So the trick with this, since it's still cold enough, is to get this layer as thin as possible without being too thin, right? If it's too thick, it'll dry too slow. If it's too thin, the edges will dry too fast, and then you're left to purgatory wedging. Just never get out of that. Or purgatory reclaiming. You're always drying things out and re-wedging them. So, right, because it's on a bed sheet, I can drag this away and move it, and then take out the bottom and flip it over when it dries out enough there. So anything that comes out of this bucket will just go straight into the trash. I'll dry this out. I'll skim off the water on top, dump that into the yard, into the garden, and let the slip either dry out in the bottom of the bucket, or I'll turn the bottom of the bucket over onto a towel and then pitch that when it's dry. So you may not have an amount of needing a 5-gallon bucket if you're working at your home. A small bath towel or something like that will work just fine for reclaiming. So when this is right, when it's dry enough, you can wedge it back up and then go straight back into throwing or hand building, right?